Okay, so welcome to another session of Selenium WebDriver. Today we're going to cover a very important topic about data parameterization. Okay, and we're also going to cover today something about assertions. So these are the very important topics in Selenium, mostly asked in interviews as well as in framework questions. How we would like to control your data, or we're going to cover some good practices also when you review someone else's code, or when you develop multiple scripts which is requiring kind of the same data, right? As you remember, we always suggest not to hard code it as data within a script, because if you want to change a data, you ultimately need to open a script, change a data, save it. You basically touch the code, right? So the good practice here is try to identify the data which is dynamic, or which is basically a test data, and then keep it somewhere else in some other data files. So we're going to cover that, and then read the data from those files, right? There are multiple ways to do it. Generally, we use Apache POI libraries, where we read the Excel sheet, and then using the data in an Excel sheet, we pass on to the script, correct? That's the one way. Today, I'm going to teach you one simple way. We will also call it them as configuration files, property files, which we generally use for environment variables and so on. So let's take this example. This is how we were writing a script till now, like a normal script where we give, let's say, driver.get, and then actual value we used to hard code in a script, right? Same thing when we say send keys to any text box, we say send keys dot, let's say, Saurabh. We used to hard code that data, correct? But if you don't want to do that, let's say, how we're gonna do is, if we do not want actual data to be inside a script, probably we're gonna just give a variable name, and then that variable will read the data from external data files, right? So how we gonna do that? So there is something called as property files. If you remember back to our old sessions, we used to have object libraries. Extension is dot properties, right?
Yes.
So dot property file is basically, you can consider it as a config file or environment file, or you can even say a data file. Just for a very simple language, you can say a data file. We're going to create a config file, sorry, properties file, and we're going to store our data in that properties file. Okay. And then we're going to read that. Whatever is in that property file, we're going to read that. And then in a runtime, we will use that data. Okay. So just a high level code, how do we do that? So properties is a class in a Selenium, where we'll create an object of first properties. Okay, this is a normal syntax to create an object of a class, right? We create a properties object. Then we're gonna create a file input stream object. So again, file input stream, file equal to new file input stream. The only thing is, because it's some constructor, you need to pass the value of properties here. Okay, so you will pass the property prop here inside the the path of the property file, and then you will load it. So first instruction is we have to load the file, and then you are good to start using it. Okay, so let's see how do we actually do this in our Eclipse. Okay, so this is my package. I'm just gonna create a new file, right click, and then or probably in that external file, you remember where we stored our drivers, right? We created a separate folder, and there we stored our driver. So there itself, I can create my new property files, right? So right click and go to, let's say, file, because we're going to create a plain file. So this is the option we will use when you want to create a JSON file or XML file or any other extensions, right? You're going to use the similar thing. So let's say I'm saying here is data file dot, the extension has to be properties. Okay, so properties, and that's it, finish. So we'll have plain properties file, you see, a plain property file where you can start using. So let's take a very simple example of URL. Okay, URL, and then I'll say equal to. So remember, in property file, you will have a data in key value format. Okay, you will have data in a key value format. So the key would be URL, correct, and the value will be whatever, like let's say HTTPS www.google.com, right? So this is the key, and this is the value. Now let's save it. That's it, a very simple example. Now let's create a new class for the data parameterization. So I'll say data parameterization script, and then we need a main. Click finish. Okay, so I'm gonna copy paste some of the code from our previous lectures. So let's take this one. Okay, so now once we launch a Firefox browser, and then what we generally do is we give hard-coded. So far we were giving hard-coded value here, right? Now our intention is not to hard-code the value there, but read it in a runtime from the property file which we gave. So the first thing I told you is create a property object, right? So properties, let's say prop equal to new keyword and then properties. Then you will have to import a package from the Java util. So just import that Java util. Okay, so you created a properties object. Now what is the next thing? You need to create a file object, right? So file input stream. So file input stream. Let's say file equal to new, and then
file stream, input stream.
And then here you need to pass the path of that particular property file, because for that particular file you are creating an input, right? You are trying to read. Again, you need to import this file input stream, which is in the java.io package. Okay, so you see these two import statements you are added. Now here it is expecting a value. So how do we do that? Just go to your properties file, right click, go to properties, and then this is the path, right, on my machine. So I'm just gonna copy that path and then try to provide it to a file input stream object here. So just provide a path. I think I'll have to give double forward slash, I believe. Not really. Okay, add throws declaration. So basically it's saying if there is an exception, what you want me to do. Okay, so this is the path of our data file, the one which we just now created, correct?
Right.
So these are the two steps. Now the next thing is you will load that. So yeah, so you will what you will do is prop, and then the moment you give a dot, you see a lot of methods, correct?
Methods.
You will see load, and what you will load, basically the file which you created, correct?
Yeah.
Again, it has some other exception which it wants to throw. So let's just add throws declaration. So IO exception, those are all sub classes, correct? If you use exception, probably everything will get covered. If file input not found or whatever, right? If you use exception, it's gonna throw, because you understand that hierarchy of exceptions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, these are the initial steps which you need to do. Now let's say I want to read a data. So string, let's say URL equal to. So all the data now you can start reading it using this prop object. So prop object. So let's say get. So the moment you see get properties, right? So get properties, what is asking? Provide me the key. What do you want to do? So what is the key? URL is the key for us, because that's what we named, correct? Or if it is getting confused, I can say website, just to, because our variable name is also URL, right? So now I'm saying, okay, website. So I'll go back to my code, and here the key here is website, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm just we'll check whether our code is working. So let me, sorry, let's print this. So I'm saying printing data from printing URL value. Let's say URL value equal to append that variable. Okay, so let me run this. So if we are able to successfully read, what it will print here, whatever the value here it has, correct? Or probably if I give Saurabh, just let's see whether it's gonna read that Saurabh. So yeah, let's run this. Right click, run as Java application. Okay, it launched the driver because we had that method. Why it's going to kayak.com? Oh, okay. Okay.
What did you have?
Yeah,
Oh,
because the
that's
next step was that. But yeah, the good thing is it printed here.
yeah.
And the printing the value from this. So this is what we generally do in our actual automation scripts. So we are not supposed to hard code the data within the scripts. We have
Yeah.
multiple ways
Okay.
to read the data. If you remember, some time back we were discussing about handling the test data, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Depending on the complexity of your test data, you come up with a solution how you would like to maintain it, how you'd like to create an inventory of your test data. If the test data is a flat two-dimensional test data, which is like can be stored and can be readable with just columns and values, right? It makes sense to create a CSV files or Excel sheets, which is the
Yeah.
mostly accepted way of handling a test data in most of the automation. But if your data is complex and it is a multi-dimensional data, probably you will end up using the JSON, right? Or you will
Yeah.
be end up using the XML formats, or you may want to explore the YAML. So there are multiple ways with which you can handle test data storage, and this is one of the way. Generally, property files are used for environment variables, uh,
Yeah.
not specifically as in functional test data, but this is used more of a environment variable, or also for an object repositories. If you remember our oats, and the way we have created an object repositories was a dot property file, right? If you remember,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we used to store our object definitions there, right?
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that that example also we'll cover it today. So what I'm going to do here
Okay.
is let's replace the SORAP with the actual value. Okay, now this is the actual value of my website. Now instead of get this particular value, I'll simply give a URL, right? That's what I'm printing. I don't want to give actual hard-coded value. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just reading a URL and then trying to go to google.com. Let's see if that works. I think we can also stay on kayak.com, but I don't like kayak. Last time it has gave a lot of issues, right, to us.
Yeah.
Uh, Probably just let's run this. And the next example we're going to see is the object repositories. Let's say object definitions. Let it launch. Yeah, so it is correctly launching the google.com, right?
Yep.
Now let's say I want to type in this text box. So first thing is we'll try to identify the text box, right? Let's see by what parameter we can identify a text box. So uh, mm, let's expand this. Okay, so this is input tag. What attribute type equal to text? Let's see if I can do that. So Control F, we're gonna start writing our HTML, right? Just to check
Yeah.
whether this is gonna work. I generally don't like the Firefox to do this probably. So what I'll do is I'll copy this.
Chrome. Use Chrome.
Yeah, I'll come to Chrome, and
Yeah.
I'll because I'm kind of very uh, habituated to write the XPaths in Chrome. Okay, so how we write XPath, the syntax again, // tag
Yeah.
input, right? And then in square
Yeah.
brackets, we give @ type attribute basically equal to text, right?
The value. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So you see one of one, which means, yeah, it is able to identify it correctly and there is only one matching. So I think this XPath is going to help me to identify that text box, right? So
Yeah.
I'll copy this text box, go back to now. This is interesting. I'm not gonna use this driver dot find element by dot, and we used to use XPath, and then here we used to give that XPath, right? This is how we learn. But let's assume you are not developing one or two scripts. Always think of a big scale, right?
Yeah.
Consider you are developing, let's say, hundreds of scripts for your product, and you have multiple engineers working in your project. Then this kind of way will not help us, because tomorrow if that XPath changes, right? If that text box value, let's assume that this is a login username text box, right?
Yeah.
Which all of your script is gonna use, all your 100 script is gonna use the login, correct? And the XPath of the login tomorrow changes. Let's assume that it changed by some value. Then you'll have to change this XPath in all your 100 scripts, right? Because
Yeah.
we are hard coding that. Again, I'm going back to the same example of object repository, right?
Yeah.
That we do not recommend, we don't want. This is not a good practice. So we're going to learn down the line, whatever we're going to learn a page object model, right? In from some sessions from now, I'm going to introduce the page object model. I want you to build that understanding why we will create a page object model. The building blocks of framework building,
Yeah.
So just for a moment, as of now, just assume that I don't want to hard code this. What I'm going to do, again, come back to property file. There are a lot. So here what I'll say is, what is this? Text box, right? So I can name this. So let's say I'll say Google, or
You
let's
give
say
it a more
exactly
meaningful name, I guess.
meaningful name, right? So I'll say Google text box equal to, just store your XPath there, save it. Okay, just save, and then I know how to read it. So I'll copy this, I'll go to data. Now instead of giving a value here, what I'm gonna do, I have the prop object already created, right? What I'll do, dot
file.
get property, right?
Oh, get property.
And then,
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
in the key, I'll pass the text box.
Google text box. Yeah.
Do you get this? So now what it's gonna do, even if I have hundred of scripts, I'll have one property file. Let's assume for that page I have one property file, an object file, right, where I stored my XPaths. Now all the other scripts, whoever is using this text box, they just need to pass this Google underscore text box, correct?
Yeah.
And then tomorrow if something changes, then of course I'll simply gonna come here. Exactly, and I'm gonna change in a property file, and ultimately all the scripts, whoever are using that particular definition or that XPath, will automatically get updated, right? So let's run this code and see how this is gonna work. So now nothing is hard coded in our script, if you see, right? Apart from the file location, that also we can we can change that as well. So now you see, it is, I think it identified it, but we didn't just do a find, but we didn't do anything. So probably after finding it, I just want to do send keys.
Pass. Yeah, send keys.
Okay, so let's say send keys. I'll say,
so you don't have to hard code this as well, right?
what is COVID? let's see. I know we'll get a result. Sorry, what was your question? What we don't need to hard code?
The send key in the code.
Yeah.
You can also
So
put that in the
exactly. So again, very good question. Here we are right now parameterizing, let's say, environment variable, which is URL, user ID, password, correct? And we are also parameterizing, let's say, object paths. We can also parameterize the test data, So generally speaking, you can cover everything in .property files if you want to. Okay,
but do you normally separate your property files based on
So what generally we do here is, in an actual automation, we tend to create environment .property for environment variables like URL, password, and let's say test data readers or database connections, right? JDBC URL, port numbers, or for all those kind of things, you can have one file which says environment variable, right?
Okay.
The next file you can have is for objects, right? Just for object definitions. For the first page, you can have one file. For next page, you can have another .property file, right? We're gonna learn that in page object model. We're gonna learn that in a more structured way. So don't worry. But I'm saying just right now at this stage, if you wanna manage everything externally, probably you can start doing it in property files as well. This .send keys also, you no need to hard code. Again, you can still store some kind of value in the .property files, right? So again, so here if I say I'm just creating another, so let's say thing to search, or let's say search underscore value, right, equal to, I'll say what is COVID, right? And then this also I can pass in my script, right? Here I no need to hard code it. You're getting my point? Again the same thing. So again prop, I'm sorry, prop dot get properties, sorry, get property, and what's our key? Our key is this, right? So here, so this is an example of handling multiple things. Handling multiple things in a property file. We handled environment variable, correct? Because we stored our URL. We also handled object repository path in a property file, and we also handled the test data, correct?
Yep.
If you look at this is the environment definition. Basically, the next thing is the object definition, and third thing is the actual test data, right?
Yeah.
Ideally speaking, you no need to do this kind of thing in a same property file. You can have multiple property file based on how the data looks, or only for test data. Probably you may want to use CSV files and Excel sheets, and then read using the Apache libraries. You remember we used to do that. It's up to how you design your framework. And again, the question comes back to how complex is your data requirement.
Right.
Based on your requirement, you will take a call. I'm just teaching you different ways how you can achieve them, right? Designing is a altogether different aspect. How you want to handle your test data inventory. That totally depends on the requirement. Now here, if you see, URL will be read by properties. You will have your text box will be, and then send keys. So let's run this quickly and see how this is gonna work. The next interesting topic I'm gonna cover is assertions. Okay, so it's launching google.com, and then cool, it is searching, right? It is searching what is COVID. Now so far so good. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't know what COVID is.
Okay, that's a unknown territory for me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so apart from COVID, I think things are at least good so far. So
I can follow it.
yeah, just try to practice to create multiple property files based on your data needs. Read different property files. You may have questions of, do I need a same object? Do I need a multiple objects? How do I handle override and all those things, right? When you will be dealing with multiple property files, probably you may want to create a different properties, like prop underscore. Let me show you. Let's say I want to create 3 objects, so I'll say prop underscore env, prop underscore obj, prop underscore test data. You know what I mean? And then based on how you load it, you will have to again, you will need a different file input streams, correct? So file input will be like env
environment.
Exactly. So you will have to do this setup initially, so that down the line you can use them appropriately. Okay. So all these things you'll have to manage and do a practice on. Okay, coming back to, okay, all this I'll have to change now. Oh, okay, let me go back to a normal plain vanilla example. Fine. Okay, so far so good. Now next thing I want to teach you today is the assertions. Okay, so what is assertion? So assertions in Selenium is, let's understand any English meaning. It's basically a belief confidently or forcefully, right? Assertions in Selenium are used to validate the test results. Basically checking an expected is equal to an actual or not, and then also decide what to do next based on the results I get. Okay. If you
like a Boolean. Is it a Boolean?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. If you don't have an assertions, let's assume if you don't have an assertions to be used, how you will manage that? Probably by writing if conditions, right? You will check. Let's say once I launch a website, I want to make sure the title is, let's say, whatever the title is. For example, in the google.com, what is the title? If I right click and do a page source, probably you see the title right somewhere else. I think this is the title when I hover my mouse, the Google, right? This is the page title. So if I want to check after launching to google.com, this is the page title. Or if I go to gmail.com, then this is the title, email from Google, right? How do I do that? So first I capture by doing .get title. I store it in a string variable, and then I using if condition, we compare, correct? This is how the traditionally we do if we don't want to use assertions, but that is a time consuming thing that we'll have to write a more code, correct? So let me create a new a new class where we'll have an assertions. So let's say new. Oops, not package. I'm sorry. Right click and new class. So I'll say assertions, and we need a main method. Finish. Okay, and then dynamic drop downs. Let me copy all these things. Okay, so now, so once I go to gmail.com, let's take this URL rather than kayak, and I wanna capture its title. So how we generally do? So let's say I'm creating a string variable, say title equal to, and then I'll say driver dot
Wasn't there get title?
Exactly. Right. So I'll get title, I'll store in a titles variable, and then I want to check whether the title is, the actual title is equal to expected or not. How do I do that?
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways to do it. Either I'll do titles dot get equals, or I will say first whatever the title I want, and then I'll compare it with that. There are null pointer exception concept in that, but yeah, let's say page source, and this is the title, correct? So I want to check in a runtime that this title is equal to ignore case equal to whatever the title it is capturing. What is that? This variable, right?
Yeah.
So if you see, there is a way where we don't need assertion. We can still handle it. We can still manage it, but we have to write more code. You're getting my point? So here I'll say system.out.println is like expected title is equal to actual title, right? I can say that, or probably vice versa. I can have titles dot equal ignore case with the hard coded value, whatever. If this is correct, it will print this. Else, what it will print? Else, let's say I just want to print that, hey, please check the log file, and the title doesn't look similar. So here I'll say expected title is not equal to actual title. Okay. So there is a way we can handle it, but the thing is we have to write a more code. So here I'll say when we not use assertion methods. How do we handle it? Using assertions. So see, the assertion is given by TestNG framework. Okay. So like we consume a lot of methods from Selenium. So wherever you create a driver object for a WebDriver interface, you are able to consume a lot of methods from a WebDriver interface, right? Whatever this Firefox is implementing them, get title, and find element. These are all methods we are able to consume because we created an object of that class, correct?
Yeah.
Similarly, the assertions, again, it is not given by Selenium. It is given by another test framework, which is TestNG. We're gonna learn TestNG in detail in upcoming sessions, but as of now, just consider it in this way, that like we are consuming some functions from Selenium to control the browser or to control the elements or to do something like a wait and watch. We have some more methods given by some testing framework called TestNG. So we have to consume them, and we're gonna follow the similar practice. First, we're gonna download its jar. We're gonna add it in our package like we did it for Selenium, and then we are good to start consuming the methods from the TestNG, right? So how do we do it? Just go to google.com here. Let's see this particular code works. I think this is gonna work. So here you say TestNG download. Just type TestNG download, or maybe we can download it from Maven. See, Maven, I don't know. We're gonna cover Maven as well. So just assume that Maven is kind of a repository, like a Google Drive repository. Okay. So so we just type TestNG Maven. Here you can select any of the versions. Don't go for beta versions. Okay, they may have bugs. So probably you want to get any stable version which has more users, more usages.
I believe I already have it installed.
Oh, nice. Okay, so just click on a version. Now, I don't want you to use a dependency right now. We haven't covered the Maven part of it. We're going to cover it somewhere else down the line. Just click on this jar file, because this is the jar which we are looking to download. Okay. So just click on a jar. It will say, do you want to save it? You say, yeah, okay, save it. So it will start downloading and it will save on your computer. Okay. Once you download that, you come to your package, right click on your package, go to properties, because now we want to, jar is nothing but a kind of compressed files, right? It's kind of a compressed, we want to consume those. So we definitely need to add that in our package. So expand the package. Oh, sorry, I think I need to click on the project. So right click on a project, go to properties, and then Java build path, and then under libraries, you have to click on add external libraries, right? So for me, you see, I already added it because I already have the test.ng, but you need to click on external jars, and then whatever the jar you downloaded, this one, correct? Just need to, once you download that, you just need to apply and close, and you're good to go. So once you have the test.ng added, now you can start using assertions. How do you do it? So we will try to do the same exact thing what we did above, now using assertions. Okay. So using assertions. Okay, before I talk about using assertions, let's go to different type of assertions. Okay.
I was gonna ask you that. Yeah, beat me to it.
So so there are two broad type of assertions in Selenium, given by test.ng, of course: hard assertion and soft assertion. Okay. So hard assertion is what? Hard assertion means if whatever you are checking for, if it is not equal to expected, okay, then stop the execution. Okay, kind of a fail method in OpenScript. You remember?
Yeah.
If any of your expected is not equal to actual, then abort the execution in Selenium language. Okay.
Yeah.
The test will stop there itself. We'll say, hey, I'm not going to proceed further. No next code of line will get executed. Kind of a fail or report failure method in OpenScript, right? Whereas soft assertion is exactly like a one method in OpenScript, where it says, yes, even if you have issues, expected is not matching with equal, that's fine. Just report and proceed.
Okay.
It will continue the execution. So you need to decide at what level, at what stage, which type of assertions you have to use in a script. Correct? So for let's take a simple example that you are checking for. Let's say once you log in, you want to make sure that login user has you're able to successfully log in. You want to check a specific element has a specific value displayed, which means that you successfully logged in. Correct?
Right.
If you want to check that, and if that is successful, rest of the execution makes sense. But if that itself is not successful, then it doesn't make sense to proceed with it. Correct?
Yeah.
So based on how you're writing or which scenario you are automating, you will decide whether to use hard assertion or whether to use a soft assertion, right?
Okay.
And in interview question as well, you probably some of just want to understand your assertion knowledge. They may ask, hey, what are the type of assertion? Which assertion can be used at what stage? Can you explain me if I want to continue with execution by just reporting the issues, or what you will use soft assertions in that case, right?
Right.
So I'll read the definitions quickly. Test execution will be aborted if the assert condition is not met, right? Soft assertions will test as execution will continue till the end of the test case, even if the assertion condition is not met. Okay. It does not have to invoke any method to capture the assertion. What does it mean? It is an inbuilt. I'll show you. Okay. You no need to create a separate object and then do anything to use hard assertions. Whereas for soft assertion, you have to create an object like this. From soft assertion class, you have to create SA equal to new software, and then using SA, you're gonna use all the assertion methods in it. Okay.
Got it.
But at the end of your script, you have to use invoke, basically assert all method in order to report all the assertions. So what it will do, it will consolidate all the soft assertions throughout your script execution, right? And then it will report at once. You're getting my point? Yeah. Because if you use 10 soft assertions in your script, once your script is done, when it's finally done with execution, of course, because you have collected all the 10 different soft assertions, you wanna throw the result, right? You want to publish it.
Yeah.
So you have to use assert all method in that case. If you don't use it, you will lose that history, that record of software assertions which you have collected throughout your execution. Okay.
Yeah.
So that thing you have to keep in mind. Now, when to use which assertions? Like I said, you need to understand at where it makes sense to abort the execution, and that where you will use hard assertions, right? And where it makes sense to just report and continue, there you will use soft assertions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's understand what are the different type of assertion methods we have. So on a high level, these are the only methods probably you can use. There are mix and match you can use of all these things. Hard assertions are the ones which the test execution is aborted if the test does not meet with the assertion condition. You also need to understand if it abort means what type of exception it may throw. Okay. So this is the exception it may gonna throw: java.lang.assertion error. Okay.
Okay.
But because by looking into the script output, you should able to understand what was the reason of my failure, right? And when you see this exception, you'll understand that it is probably because some of the assertion in my script are not working. Now these are the broad three categories of assertion: assert equal, assert true, assert null. Okay. And everything will have not associated with it. Okay. Equals, assert equal, assert true, and assert null. There are three levels. Just remember these three, and then they have each one of them has its own not. Okay.
Yeah.
Assert equals, assert not equal, assert true, assert false, assert null, assert non-null. Okay.
Opposite.
Just to quickly remember, the way I remember is, if you don't want to get into the assert complexity, just replace the assert with check.
Yeah.
If the check equal, check false, then the name itself understands that what I'm doing, correct? So you say, check equals, which you understand what I'm doing. So let's let's go back to okay. So how we can do the above thing using assertions, using hard assertions, let's say, and we'll also take an example of soft assertions. Hard assertions, like I said, you just want to use the assert method, assert, and then you say dot. You see there are a lot of methods. You see this? See again, the main methods are assert equal, assert true, and assert not null, right? But these are all different. This is overriding or overloading. Can you tell me? You
Which
see,
one are you? Your screen is small.
let's say dot equals, right?
Yeah.
So you see dot equals boolean array, dot equals byte actual, byte array, character array, collection. What I mean to say, these are all different examples of method overloading or method overriding.
Overloading.
Okay, I'll give you this as an homework to find out. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to come tomorrow and tell me these are as overloading or overriding examples. Okay. But yeah, let's say I want to use dot assert equal. Just type assert. Now see, title, when I'm trying to check for a title, what it is string, right? Get my point? It is the string. So either I can select from the drop down like this, where the string is, or you can simply go and type it and then change. So here actual, see the syntax itself says first give me the actual and then give me the expected, correct?
Yeah.
So in this case, what is our actual? Title, right? This is what we are capturing in a runtime. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then what is the expected? This is the expected.
Text, Gmail, email from Google.
Okay, this is a string, so I will give like this. That's it.
Or you can also put that in a string and pass the string, right?
Yeah, either way, I can have here as a separate, correct? Or maybe I can put it in a dot property file, read it from there, and then here I can have prop dot get property, right?
Yes.
Here I can have prop dot get property and then give the key as a title, where I'll store the title in the property file, correct? I can have that as well. So now if you see this 4 lines of code, I have simplified it just by using an assert method, right? So this will run, and let's see how it reports. Now I just want to show you the result of it. Because if you remember, I said for when you are using a hard assertion, you don't need to use assert all to invoke or to publish the result, right?
Yeah.
So that by saying you no need to do it, what exactly it looks like, let's try to understand. Okay, the execution is done. Let's look into the report. Okay. So it is saying expected title is equal to actual title, but here we didn't get anything from assertion. Okay, probably I need to show them in the reporting part later on to you. But right now, let's say I want to change this Gmails, okay? And then I'm just typing one more line here to show you whether it's gonna actually come here or not. So I'll say executed this line, okay? Now I'm gonna change the expected. I'm say test email from Google, okay? Run this because I'm expecting this to fail, right?
Yeah.
If it fails, it shouldn't execute line number 21.
Yeah.
Okay, it is launching. It is navigating to gmail.com. Fine, cool. Okay, cool. See this? Now the next line which says executed that line, it didn't execute that, right? This line number 21, it didn't execute that because it failed in line number 20 itself. And that's what the exception we are talking about. See this? Java line assertion error, right?
Yeah.
Says expected is this, but found this, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So by just writing a one line, we could check. We no need to write these 4 lines of code, correct?
Yeah.
So that's one advantage. Similarly, we have a lot of different things. So let's say this is an example of a string. If you want to use something else, same thing how we can do using a soft assertion. For soft assertion, if you remember what I said, you need to create an object like soft assert, right? If you want to do same thing about what I did, so using soft assertion. So what I'll do, soft assert, I'll say so equal to new soft assert. Oops, sorry. Java is case sensitive. Okay, and then import this from testng. You see from which package it is coming? It is coming from testng, right? Just import that. Now you have the same thing. What I'll do here is now if I'll simply copy this part because soft assert also has kind of a same methods. Okay, dot and paste it. That's it. Did you get this?
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, because soft assert also has a kind of a similar methods. You know, assert equal, assert null, and assert true, right? Now I'll change the sequence of this just because that is going to be dead code. It's not going to reach if there is an issue with the hard assertions, right?
Yeah.
So now what I'm doing, I'm checking with a soft assertion. So this is a very good example in front of you now. One without assertion using if else, one using a soft assertion, right? Now you see test email from Google. This is going to fail. I know that, right? This is going to fail. But even if this fails, the next line, it's going to continue executing, correct?
Yeah.
So here I'll say executed this line after soft assertion. And then when it will come to hard assertion, here it will actually create a assertion, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then will it execute this? No.
No.
It will not execute. One more thing I want you to understand. If you remember to report all the assertions, what we have to use? Assert all. You remember?
Yes, I know.
For soft assertions, because you know, if you want, see, now you tell me one thing. If I add this at the end of our script, right? Of like somewhere else here, because I want to report all of them. Now you tell me if the hard assertion encounters in line number 26, will it reach 29 to execute this?
No.
That's right, because the hard
it's not
assertion,
doing.
the hard assertion will abort then and there.
Abort.
It will not even go to line number 27. Okay.
Yeah.
So it will not, there is no question that it will even reach the catch block. If there is a catch block, let's assume, right? There is no question that it will even reach to the next statement. It will stop there and there. So it will not even come here. So just wanted to make you understand. So now let's run this code. It's gonna fail at soft assertion, but it will continue. And again it will fail at a hard assertion, but it will not continue, right?
Yeah.
So let's see that. Okay, loaded a gmail.com. We are only interested in console. Expected title is equal to this. This come from if and else. This came from soft assertion, right?
Yeah.
And then this finally says the hard assertion, correct? And then you see the assert also basically throwing some kind of message to you saying like, hey, there is some issue. Okay, so I want you to practice the remaining methods in assertions, which is assert equals. We covered assert equal, which is assert true and false. How do you cover? See, it's pretty simple. The thumb rule is whatever you are trying to check, first understand whether that value, that whatever you are trying to check, whether it's boolean, it's string, it's array, it's character, it's byte, it's float, or whatever it is. Based on that, you use the method. If you are using a radio button check, let's say, right?
Yeah.
If you want to check whether if there is a radio button of male and female, if you want to go to that website and check whether it's already selected as male, you will not use assert equal, right? You'll use assert true, right?
Yeah.
Getting my point?
Yeah.
So you will use assert true boolean, and then whatever you will capture, you can basically do like this itself. So driver dot find element, and then use by dot, let's say XPath, correct? And then give the XPath here of that boolean, let's say, dash dash input, not input, whatever that boolean tag is, example, right?
Button or
So I'm just writing the syntax. Let's say attribute equal to value, right? So once you give this syntax, that's it. So here what it's gonna do in the runtime, it's gonna read that. So why it's showing an error? Okay, I need one more closing bracket. Oh, sorry. This is just gonna find the element. I wanna read it, right? So probably dot is enabled, right? Some that kind of method I need to use in order to get the property. Yeah, this is good. Okay, so now if you look at this statement, it looks pretty big, but I think the breakdown of it you understood. Assert dot assert true, and then rather than reading this outside, storing it in a boolean variable, and then passing it here, I'm just combining all of them here, right? Then driver dot find element by dot XPath, and then is enabled. So this complete statement, whichever I'm highlighting, is going to return you either true or false, and that it will compare. So check true. If it returns true, then this is good. It will continue execution. But if it returns false, then here it will fail. Correct?
Yes.
So this is the power of assertions. It is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I know here we have to use hard assertion, soft assertion. For using soft assertions, we create an object and use it. Whereas if you remember in OpenScript, it was fairly simple, right? Using what report pass method, using info, using fail, or using one, and using a report failure, correct? So for the fail method, the report failure method were kind of hard assertions, whereas the one method and not report pass, only one method is a soft assertion, right?
Yes.
The reason I'm giving you this analogy is because if you remember what I always say, if you know basics, any automation tool is easy to learn, right? So focus on basics. If your basics are good, it's just matter of connecting the dots, because most of the automation tool works on a similar principle, right?
That's true.
So focus on basics. Write down, make your basics concrete. Nothing is very, very alien. So I want you to do the practice. I want you to do the practice of different assertion methods of different types. Reading a title, reading a boolean, reading a array. I think reading array would be a good example. Okay. So try to read an array and try to compare it with an expected. I want you to do that practice. Tell me how it goes. Okay.
Okay.
And then use soft assertion and hard assertions, and then tell me if you have any issues. Okay.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay then.
For tomorrow, I'll get that ready.